Is the India-EU trade deal going to have significant opposition coming from the US? Ayush Singh says, please share your analysis of the recent Indo-European FTA, free trade agreement. Who is on more receiving terms compared to, who benefits more compared to, which side benefits more, essentially? That's what he's asking. And Rushabh Tare says, your take on the recent trade deal between India and the EU. This didn't get coverage due to other issues in India, like the UGC fiasco, etc. But why is it being called the mother of all trade deals? The US is upset with Scott Bessent even calling it hypocrisy. China, Turkey, Bangladesh, Pakistan are all not very happy about this deal. Moreover, we are signing a framework for a major defense equipment and intel sharing deal. So how is it going to impact our economic and defense standing in the world? So let's first talk about the economic aspects of this deal. I mean, the deal that's been signed is the economic deal, the FTA, the free trade agreement between India and the EU. So what are the contours, the parameters, and so on of the FTA between India and the EU? So this FTA, it gives preferential access or zero duty access to more than 99% of India's exports to the EU by value. Okay, and this is far, far higher than what India has in the other markets. We have FTAs with other markets like Australia and the UAE and so on and so forth. But we don't have anything like this, like what we have achieved with the EU, right? So EU duties are being eliminated on about 70% of tariff lines immediately. So whatever tariff line is a set of tariffs, or it's a tariff that's imposed on a certain category of goods. So you have a bunch of tariff lines, okay? So these tariffs are being eliminated on about 70% of these tariff lines, which cover about 90% of India's exports. And the remaining ones will see phased cuts. Phase by phase, the cuts will happen, so that's one thing. And for the EU, so about 90% of the goods that India is exporting to the EU will face zero tariffs eventually, and the remaining goods will face lower tariffs than what we were facing. When it comes to the EU's goods that they are exporting to India, about 86%, maybe almost 90% of those will see zero tariffs, and the rest will see decreased tariffs and maybe phased implementation and so on. For India, you have sectors like textiles, like pharmaceuticals, engineering goods, agricultural products, and so on. These goods will get almost immediate zero tariff or zero duty access to the European market. And the EU is already India's largest trading partner in many of these sectors, right? So that's fantastic. And we're going to get excellent commitments for services exports, for mobility of skilled professionals. So Indian skilled professionals who will get to will have easier access to work in the European Union, right? And this is something that India has kind of not really got in other free trade agreements. So this directly supports the Indian IT sector, right? Our IT sector mainly services the US. Now we're going to do that. We'll have the opportunity to do this for Europe also. And the US is clamping down on immigration and whatnot. So it's harder for Indian professionals to go and work in the US, but it's going to be easier now for them to go and work in the EU. So it's going to support India's massive IT sector. It's going to support India's business services sector. And obviously, it will be great for high-skilled employment in India. And essentially, it gives India access to 27-nation single market. So India has 1.4 billion people. The EU has 450 million people. It brings together almost 2 billion people in a single market, right? That's fantastic. And both nations want to diversify away from the US, and both nations want to diversify away from China as well. We don't want over-dependence on China, right? And we want to hedge against the American tariff volatility, which you never know what kind of tariffs the Americans will push on you, depending on what side of the bed Donald Trump woke up on today morning, that sort of thing. Right. So overall, it's great. It's kind of win-win, whatever I've seen thus far. I'm not doing a detailed point-by-point analysis here. It's a broad analysis I'm giving you. So see, India wants to become more of a manufacturing power. Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat, all of that, right? And a lot of this manufacturing, labor-intensive manufacturing that happens in in East Asia, if India can capture even a fraction of that market, right, and sell it and sell the goods tariff-free in a high-income market like the EU, it's going to support Make in India. It's going to support Atmanirbhar Bharat. It's going to support export-led growth of the Indian economy. And that's fantastic. It's something that no other single FTA or any other agreement anywhere else offers for India at this scale. So it's massive. It's actually massive for India. And of course, it brings India and the EU closer together. This will make it less likely for EU nations to interfere in India's internal affairs and mess around with the issues, regarding sovereignty, or support Pakistan, or support China, or even support the US, because they benefit from a stronger, more stable, and more robust and faster growing India. They benefit directly from this. So why will they do anything to undermine India, right? So this strengthens India's position as a key partner for the European Union in the current world order. It strengthens India's geopolitical position significantly. It will reduce India's vulnerability to US sanctions, US tariffs, and India's over dependence on the US, right? And a few Asian markets as well. So it diversifies risk for India. It increases leverage that India has on various EU nations, including diplomatic leverage and other kinds of leverage, right? So overall, it's fantastic. Overall, it's great. I'm sure there are some things that need to be looked into and so on. But overall, from a big picture perspective, it's fantastic. You could have tens of billions of dollars of additional exports going on from India, going from India to the EU. And overall, I see that it's a fantastic development for India and for the EU. So I think it's kind of a win-win situation, right? The US is upset. Yeah, the US will be upset about this because they thought they're gonna bring India, they're gonna drag India back to the negotiating table. That India is gonna come and say sorry to the US and agree to the US to the trade deal on American terms. Well, that's not happening. And India's got this big trade deal with the EU. We don't need a trade deal with the US. It can keep it in the freezer, in deep freeze if they want. So the Americans are upset. And they are moaning about this and complaining about the EU and so on, right? Besant calling it hypocrisy. Well, he is the hypocrite there. China, Turkey, Bangladesh, Pakistan, not happy. Who cares? I mean, who cares about Turkey, Bangladesh, Pakistan? How do they matter? Insignificant nations. China hasn't said anything about it, as far as I know. China hasn't expressed displeasure, as far as I know. But yeah, obviously they will not be very pleased about this. It is what it is. Is this trade deal going to have significant opposition coming from the US? So this trade deal is signed, the FTA is signed, but it has to be ratified by both sides. And this process could take several months. Possibly it could be operational in maybe 6 months, maybe by the end of this year. So it's a process that takes time. Okay, there's a process it undergoes after the signing. So in the meanwhile, will the Americans pressurize the EU? They may. I'm sure they will. But it's not in the EU's interests to walk away from this trade deal, or try to dilute it to whatever. It's not in their interest. So I'm sure the Americans will exert some kind of pressure on it. I'm sure they will. But I'm pretty sure this will go ahead. What about the defense framework for major defense equipment and intel sharing deal? Intel sharing is fine. Both sides obviously will curate the intel they share with each other. So I don't see any major issues there. When it comes to defense equipment and all that, we're going to have to be a little careful. Because see, our strongest and most time-tested geopolitical relationship is the one that we have with Russia. Russia is a trusted partner. India and Russia have never done anything that significantly undermines the other's interest. Yeah, there may be some irritants here and there, whatever, but nothing major. India and Russia have no major disagreements. And the track record is such that we can trust each other within parameters, right? Within the parameters of each nation's national interest. So whatever we do with, let's say, the EU or whoever else, we will not do anything that jeopardizes our tried and tested relationship with Russia, our privileged strategic partnership with Russia. We won't do anything that jeopardizes this. Now, let's say we are selling defense equipment. It's going to be buy and sell, obviously. We'll buy stuff, we'll sell stuff. So let's say we are selling defense equipment to the EU nations. What if it gets used by NATO? I mean, what about that? What if we sell Akash surface to air missiles to the Europeans? The Akash SAM system performed admirably during Operation Sindoor. It's one of the components of the best battle-tested air defense system in the world. Better than the Israeli Iron Dome thus far, at this point. So if we sell that to the Europeans, and what if they use it against Russia? Or what if they provide it to Ukraine to use against Russia? I mean, those are the things that we'll have to look into. Obviously, look, once you sell something, it's out of your hands. You never know how it's going to be used. So we're going to have to be very careful about that. But as long as we are careful about what we sell and how it is going to be used and so on, I'm sure we can make it, the defense framework, also very strong and mutually beneficial and a win-win kind of thing. So we'll have to see about that. But the FTA is just fantastic overall.